Into the afternoon.
Cue back momentarily. All right, you're warming up. It's on. All right.
That's State's Exhibit number 80, Agent Fitzgerald?
Yes.
All right, can you tell the jurors a little bit about what we're looking at in State's Exhibit number 80?
Yeah, so this is just showing that the same two phones, the one subscribed to by Andrea Sneiderman and Hemy Neuman, were utilizing the same tower and sector on the morning of July 23rd, 2010. The Hemy Neuman phone started at 6:29 a.m. and the Andrea Sneiderman utilized the same tower about an hour later at 7:26 a.m.
Now, is it your testimony that the two are calling each other at those times?
Oh, I don't know if they're calling each other. I don't remember the details, but they were just utilizing that tower. They're different times, so I assume that they're not calling each other.
They're not calling each other at those times.
Right.
And by identifying this, you're letting us know that by using the same cell site tower and sector, what is it that you can tell us about their geographic location?
They're in the same general geographic area.
Okay, and can you give the jurors a little bit of an idea about what you're talking about when you say same general geographic area?
So I was looking at, based on the neighboring towers for the Longmont area, where the other towers in the other area, it's going to be roughly a mile and a half coverage for that sector, so not too far from the tower.
If someone were in the same location, would their cell phone's tower, the mapping information you described, what would it look like?
If they were in the same location, they'd both utilize the same tower and sector, assuming they're on the same network like these two phones.
Is the information contained in State's Exhibit number 80, is that consistent with the defendant and Hemy Neuman being in the same location?
Yeah, if they were in the same location, it would populate the same way, yes.
Okay. What if they were 5 miles apart? Would you expect if they were 5 miles apart, their information would be the same as contained on State's Exhibit number 80?
No, not in this area. It'd be a different tower, different resources.
Can you narrow it any more than same location and 5 miles apart?
Like I said, I think that looking at the neighboring towers in here, in my expert opinion, the sector goes out a little over a mile, and you have a little pie shape, more or less, that comes off of that tower. So it's going to be in a certain direction off of that tower. They're both on the same direction and within about a mile and a half of that tower.
Consistent with them being in the same location?
It's still consistent with them being in the same location, yeah.
Agent Fitzgerald, let me ask you, the time period from July 21st, when Mr. Newman's cell phone arrived in the Denver airport, and through the 22nd of July 2010, did the defendant's cell phone and Hemy Neuman's cell phone, were they in separate cell phone site locations, or were they utilizing different cell sites?
There were a couple occasions where one of the phones might go to a different area and utilize phones, but for the most part, in general, they seemed to be in the same general area when they didn't travel too much. It was mostly this tower and then a couple other towers nearby. But same, if you say general area like Longmont, Colorado, they were both in Longmont, Colorado, and kind of stayed in that area until they went to the airport.
Okay. And more specifically, utilizing this cell site tower and that sector of that cell site tower, were they majority of the time in that location?
Yes, that would be the tower and sector they were using, or the phone was using in the early morning hours, like the first calls of the day.
That's what I was going to ask you. What about the overnight hours? During the overnight hours, and I'm defining that as sometime between 10 p.m. and 6 or 7 a.m., was the Hemy Neuman phone traveling independently of Andrea Sneiderman's phone?
I think there was one occasion during those 2-3 days that looks like the Hemy Neuman phone traveled to a neighboring tower just to the northwest, but for the most part, the first calls of the day were all, and we've shown the slides, have been in that same tower and sector.
And the duration of time that Mr. Newman's phone was using a separate neighboring cell site location, was that a long period of time or a short period of time?
No, it was brief, very brief. Yeah.
A brief period of time, many
Yes.
minutes?
Well, it went out, and I'm going off the top of my head here, but as I remember, the phone went and utilized the tower, and then like 15, 20 minutes later, it's back to utilizing a tower. I mean, it's definitely within an hour, it was back to utilizing the same tower structure that I'm depicting on the map here.
Thank you, Agent. We look at State's Exhibit number 81, please. State's Exhibit number 81. Can you identify what it is that we're looking at, Agent Fitzgerald?
Yeah, so this is just later in the evening, July 23rd, 2010. It's just showing the Sneiderman phone and the Neuman phone are both utilizing towers in the Denver airport at 6:39 and 6:40 p.m.
6:39. And what was the date of that?
The 23rd of July 2010.
Your Honor, my approach?
You may.
Are they calling each other?
No, I don't believe so. I don't remember exactly.
You would have noted that on your slide?
I assume I would have noted that, but I don't remember for sure.
The Denver airport? All right. The same tower at the Denver airport?
Yes, same tower, same sector.
Same tower, same sector. Okay. Can we look now, please, at State's Exhibit number 82? Agent Fitzgerald, can you please describe the contents of State's Exhibit number 82?
So this is just showing that the Hemy Neuman phone and the Sneiderman phone are now utilizing towers around the Atlanta airport right a little after midnight, so right around 12:30. At 12:27 and 12:33, they're both using towers that would be associated with the airport or located at the airport.
July 24th, 2010?
Right, so it's later, so it's local time, so it's later. With the slide before just showed around 6:40. If you went ahead 6 hours and shift time change, for Eastern time, it's just later in that day, just the early morning hours of the 24th, just a little after midnight.
A little after midnight, local time?
Correct,
Local
yes.
time. Okay. Your Honor, may I approach you?
You may.
Thank you. Agent Fitzgerald, you identified for us a slide that indicated that Mr. Newman's phone was at the Atlanta airport on July 21st, 2010. And now slide 82 is indicating that Mr. Newman's cell phone is returning to the Atlanta airport in the early morning hours of July 24th, 2010. During that time period, between those two events, is there any time that Mr. Newman's phone left the Longmont, Colorado area?
Other than to go to Denver airport, I mean, it was still in that general area, Longmont, Colorado.
What about the defendant Andrea Sneiderman's phone?
It was the same general area.
Thank you. I want to direct your attention now, Special Agent Fitzgerald, to August 26th and 27th, 2010. Did you review any phone records relevant to this case for the time period August 26th and August 27th, 2010?
I did.
We go down to State's Exhibit number 83, please. Can you describe for the jurors, please, what we're looking at in State's Exhibit number 83?
So in this slide, I was trying to just summarize all of the movements at once, so it's a little busy, but basically from the 26th to the 27th, I show both the records show both the Sneiderman phone and the Hemy Neuman phone start utilizing towers in the Greenville, South Carolina area on the 26th at about 5:30, so 5:21 to 5:33 p.m., depending on which phone you look at. And it stays. Both phones stay in that area. The Andrea Sneiderman phone, the last tower used in Greenville area is about 11:20, and then on the 27th, and then the Hemy Neuman phone up until the 26th on 2:36 p.m. is the last time. On the 27th at 2:36 p.m. is the last time it utilized the tower in the Greenville, South Carolina area.
Agent Fitzgerald, have you color-coded some of the text on this map and on the other state's exhibits?
Yes.
Okay. And whose phone is identified in the purple box?
That would be the phone associated with Andrea Sneiderman.
And what about the red?
That would be the phone associated with Hemy Neuman.
Okay, thank you.
And then it shows both phones returning to the metro Atlanta area on the 27th, right around 4:30.
And the phones were consistently in Greenville, South Carolina, in the overnight hours?
Yes, so the last record for both phones on the 26th, so the last use of the phone at night was on this, for both phones was on the same tower and sector, and the first record on the 27th were on the same tower and sector on the 27th.
Agent Fitzgerald, there's been previous testimony in this case identifying the phone number of Melanie White.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that information?
Yes, I was provided that number.
Okay. Can you tell me, were there any calls either to or from Hemy Newman's phone to Ms. White during the period reflected on State's Exhibit number 83?
Yes, the number I was given for Melanie White is 404-915-9622. And on the 26th and on the 27th, there was a total of like 4 calls, or 4 back and forth calls with the Hemy Neuman phone.
Thank you. Can we see State's Exhibit number 84, please? Agent Fitzgerald, State's Exhibit number 84, can you identify what it is we're looking at?
Yes, so I just took both, look at their phones for the time period of September 18th, 2010 to September 25th, 2010.
And I'm sorry, when you say their phones, whose phones?
I'm sorry, the phones associated with Sneiderman and Neuman.
Continue, please.
The Neuman phone departs the Atlanta area on the 18th around 10 o'clock at night, 10:11 p.m. and doesn't return to the Atlanta area until the 25th, September 25th at about 6:53 p.m. And the Andrea Sneiderman phone departs the Metro Atlanta area also on September 18th at around 10:28 p.m. And then the first record back in Atlanta is on the 25th at about 6:07 p.m. And looking at the call detail records, there's a code in there that when converted, it shows that both phones were roaming, and both of them were roaming in the United Kingdom and utilizing the Orange. It's a cellular provider in Europe, Orange. So it was utilizing services on their network.
Do you have access, Agent Fitzgerald, to the same amount of information about the cell phone tower and the mapping and the sector? Do you have the same amount of information when phones travel overseas?
No, we'd have to get that from Orange, which requires a little bit more process, legal process.
Okay, so you don't have those those records.
I do not have that.
Okay, let me ask you something, Your Honor.
You may.
When you said that Ms. Sneiderman, or excuse me, let's take Mr. Newman's phone, the block in red. When you say that Mr. Newman's phone left Atlanta at this particular time, 10:11 p.m., does that mean that the plane took off at that time period? What can you tell us based on the phone records about what that 10:11 p.m. means?
All I know is that the phone last utilized a tower in Atlanta at 10:11. Where it went overseas, other than I have a roaming code of using the Orange network in the United Kingdom. Where in the United Kingdom, I don't know.
That's just the last time Mr. Newman's phone was used on the 18th before it
Right.
traveled internationally in the way you've described?
Correct.
What about Mrs. Sneiderman's phone, the item in purple there? Does that mean that her phone left Atlanta airspace at 10:28 p.m.?
No, it's just the last tower it utilized in the Atlanta area was around 10:28.
Okay, whatever time she used the phone prior to the plane
Right.
taking off. Okay. And what about the return flights as you've indicated them? Same thing?
Right. So the first record by the Hemy Neuman phone is at 6:53 on the like a week later on the 25th, and with the Andrea Sneiderman phone, the first record utilizing an Atlanta tower was on the 25th at 6:07 p.m.
Okay. Now I see State's Exhibit number 85, please. What's the time frame that is depicted for the information on State's Exhibit number 85?
So this is from October 21st through the 22nd. It's kind of the same as the previous Greenville, South Carolina slide. I'm just showing that the Hemy Neuman phone utilized towers in Greenville, South Carolina from 11:27 p.m. on the 21st of October to 11:56 a.m. on the 22nd of October. And then the Andrea Sneiderman phone started utilizing towers in Greenville, South Carolina from 5:25 p.m. on the 21st, and then started all the way to 10:37 a.m. on the 22nd.
Can you tell me, Agent Fitzgerald, whether you reviewed the phone records for the defendant on the date of October 21st, 2010, paying particular attention to the hours of 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us if there were any calls to Rusty Sneiderman, either the cell phone or the home phone, in
Yes.
between that time period?
Yes, there was. There were two calls between 7:14 p.m. and 8:11 p.m. and it looked like it was a outgoing call from the Andrea Sneiderman phone to Rusty Sneiderman's phone. I believe it was the home phone, and then it was fairly short in duration, less than a minute. And then it looks like their incoming calls or incoming call from Rusty Sneiderman that was directed to voicemail.
Thank you, Agent Fitzgerald. State's Exhibit number 86. Can we see that, please? What information is depicted on State's Exhibit number 86?
So this is just concentrating in that same time period, the 21st through the 22nd of October, and just showing that the Hemy Neuman phone utilizes a particular tower in Greenville and sector in Greenville, South Carolina at 11:40 p.m. And then the first one is at 8:13 a.m. in the morning. And then the Andrea Sneiderman phone in purple is utilizing the same tower and sector in the Greenville, South Carolina area. The last call at 8:11 p.m. and then the first call being at 7:54 a.m.
Same cell phone tower?
Same tower and sector.
Thank you. Agent Fitzgerald, did you review the records of the defendant's cell phone and pay particular attention, or was your attention directed towards November 18th, 2010?
It was, yes.
I see State's Exhibit number 87, please. I'm going to ask you first about State's Exhibit number 87. What are we looking at State's Exhibit number 87?
This is the Andrea Sneiderman phone. It's just depicting a cell site and sector that was utilized by that phone. It was a 47-second outgoing call. And if I can, I'll try to draw along. So it utilized a sector that points out to the west along 285, and there was a 47-second call to a 216 number, which I was told was Don Sneiderman, a number associated with Don Sneiderman.
Are you aware?
I mean Don, Sneiderman home phone. Yeah.
Don Snyderman's home phone number?
I believe it was, let's see, 16. Yeah, it's home phone, I'm sorry.
And what time was that call made from the defendant's phone to Don Snyderman's home phone number?
9:36 a.m.
Is that Eastern Time or Central Time?
That'd be Eastern Time.
Go ahead.
Thank you. How long did that call last?
47 seconds. And I've also referenced on the map where, so the phone is going to be in this general area, geographic area, utilizing services on that tower. And I've also marked on the map with green dots where the daycare at 5493 Chambly Dunwoody, as well as the residence at 4939 Mangett Court Road is.
Let me stop you. You said the daycare, the 5493 Chambly Dunwoody. Is that Chambly Dunwoody Road?
Yes.
Okay, and what is located at that address?
The prep school, daycare.
Dunwoody Prep School?
Correct, yes.
And the 4939 Mangett Court. What do you know that address to be?
I was provided that as the Sneiderman residence.
Agent Fitzgerald, I see a number of dots or circles on State's Exhibit number 87. And can you tell the jurors what those dots or circles are, or what they represent?
Okay, so if you can clear the box.
Mr. Pasquale, can you clear the box?
So I've also depicted on the map all the other, it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but all these other little black dots are going to be other AT&T towers that are also in the area, just to kind of give reference to show how many towers exist between where the general geographic area where the phone's being used, and how many other towers there are that can provide this service, all between the address and where that location is.
Agent Fitzgerald, Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Agent Fitzgerald, let me ask you specifically. If the defendant's cell phone is in use in this general area, are you able to see where I'm pointing?
Yes.
If the defendant's cell phone is in use in this general area at 9:36 when she makes a 47-second call to Don Snyderman's home phone number, would you expect, or where would you expect the defendant's phone to physically be located?
Down in, basically in the area I've circled on the map. It's going to be to the west of that, southwest, west of that tower.
Is it likely that the defendant's phone was in use up here near the Dunwoody Daycare Center?
Oh, no.
Okay. Is it likely that the defendant's phone was in use near her residence at Mangett Court?
Absolutely not.
Okay. You're comfortable saying that that's not possible? Why?
It's number one, just the physical distance, and then even more so, all the towers that are in between. So, an analogy I'd like to use is if AT&T could get away with just putting one tower in downtown Atlanta and service the whole Atlanta area, they'd be more than happy to do that because the cost is cheap, the maintenance would be cheap, but they put up all the towers to provide service to the different subscribers, depending on the population density. So it's no different than if you were designing an in-ground sprinkler system for your front yard of your house, and you put multiple sprinklers out in the yard. You're not going to have the sprinkler that's in the bottom right-hand corner watering the other corner of the yard. You're going to let the sprinkler over in that corner water the yard. So it's very directed. It's called cellular for a reason. There's no way it's going to jump like that from a west-facing sector all the way up to that area.
We see State's Exhibit number 88, please. State's Exhibit number 88, Agent Fitzgerald, what is it that we're looking at?
So this is just later on November 18, 2010, starting at 10:35 a.m. It's showing a tower that was utilized to send a text to a phone number that I was told belonged to, and I'm going to murder the name, Schlately. And then it just shows the towers that are utilized as time goes on down to, so...
Utilized by whose phone?
the Andrea Sneiderman phone. So it starts up at the top utilizing towers at 10:35, I believe it was. And you can see as time goes on, 10:36 it uses a tower a little bit further south, 10:38, 10:40, 10:41, and I just kind of drew arrows for the general direction of travel as the towers are being used, as they travel down into the city of Atlanta.
And Agent Fitzgerald, did you have an end point or a base point to your direction of travel?
I'm not sure I understand.
The cell phone is traveling in a particular direction, is it not?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and how is it traveling?
Southerly.
Okay. And in putting together this map, did you have a destination point for the phone?
Yes, I was told the Atlanta Medical Center in Atlanta was where Rusty Sneiderman was. So that's where I was looking to see when that phone traveled to that hospital.
Okay. And let me stop. If you can clear that, please. Thank you. The first phone, and when first phone, I mean the first phone call that is chronologically first, would it be easier for you if you were taking a look at State's Exhibit number 88? Is that easier than reading it off the screen?
I can read it off the screen, just if it's not zoomed in.
Okay, all right. Then can you tell me then what is the first call that's made on State's Exhibit number 88 with the defendant's phone?
So the first one that's depicted is the one at the very far north, and that's going to be at 10:35 a.m., and that's where the text was sent to the Schlackley phone.
Mr. Shackley, and it's been previously testified to, the number 404-202-7082. Is that what you're identifying as belonging to Mr. Schlackley?
Correct, yes.
I'm sure I didn't pronounce that correctly either. Where was the defendant's phone in use in relation to the Atlanta Medical Center at the time she sent that text at 10:35 to Mr. Schlackley?
Oh, it's up 400. It's going to be around 400 and 285 in that general area, so pretty far north.
Okay. Would you expect, based on the information that you reviewed, that the defendant was actually at the Atlanta Medical Center at the time she sent that text?
Oh, absolutely not.
You're comfortable saying that without a doubt?
Well, the phone wasn't.
The phone wasn't.
Right.
Thank
Phone
you. What is it about State's Exhibit number 88 or the defendant's phone in use that you are able to say describes travel in a direction towards the Atlanta Medical Center?
So you can see there's quite a few calls that were recorded in text, and you can see it starts at 10:35, and then it starts using, the first time it utilizes a tower right near the Atlanta Medical Center is at 10:46 a.m. So, whatever that is, 11-minute period, that's the direction of travel down to Atlanta Medical Center.
I want to direct your attention to a call on your State's Exhibit number 88 at 10:41 a.m. and 10:42 a.m. Do you see those referenced there on State's Exhibit number 88?
Yes, so those are utilizing, I was provided this 404-667-8507 phone that is associated with Citron, and I was looking at those, and there's a 3-second call at 10:41, and then there's a 1-minute 15-second call at 10:42, and the towers that were utilized for those two actions are going to be located right near where 75 and 85 connect in Atlanta.
Okay. Your Honor, may I push?
You may.
Thank you. Can you see, Agent Fitzgerald, as I am pointing to the two telephone calls that indicate the defendant, is that the defendant calling Shayna Citron, calling this number 404-667-8507?
It's the defendant's phone calling Citron's phone.
Okay. And where can you identify for the jury, where is the defendant's phone in use as it relates to the Atlanta Medical Center when she's making those two calls to Shayna Citron?
It's still several miles south, several miles north. The Atlanta Medical Center is several miles south of where the phone is located.
And those calls were made at what time?
10:41 and 10:42.
Okay. All right, thank you. I want to ask you a little more detail about the time that the defendant's phone got to the tower that is closest to the Atlanta Medical Center. Can you identify on State's Exhibit number 88, where is the tower that's closest to the Atlanta Medical Center?
And I'm sorry, I said that they were where 75, 85 connect. It's where 485 connect. So I just
Thank
wanted to
you.
correct myself.
Thank you.
The tower that is by the Atlanta Medical Center is on the far south end of this map, and it was utilized starting at 10:46 a.m.
And utilized beginning at 10:46 a.m. Explain to the jurors what you mean or what you can derive about the cell phone, defendant's cell phone use prior to 10:46 a.m.
Right, so right before it, at 10:45, in this area, it's utilizing a tower to the west of Atlanta Medical Center. So it's still in the area of the connector, and it's not until 10:46, like a minute later, that it's actually utilizing that tower that would service the Atlanta Medical Center.
Agent Fitzgerald, can you say that the defendant's cell phone prior to 10:46 a.m. was not in the vicinity of the Atlanta Medical Center?
Correct. Yeah, I believe that the phone did not arrive to the area of Atlanta Medical Center until 10:46.
Okay, thank you. Could we take a look at, please, State's Exhibit number 89? Agent Fitzgerald, what are we looking at in State's Exhibit number 89?
It's just to show, in reference to a couple of the calls that we just previously mentioned. So you have the two calls to Citrone up here. You have another call from the Hemy Neuman phone right at where the 75 and 85 connect. And then you have the tower that was utilized that services the Atlanta Medical Center. And I just wanted to show how many towers were between these, each of the calls to the Atlanta Medical Center, so there'd be no confusion that a phone near 85 and 400 is not going to utilize a tower down by Atlanta Medical Center, and somebody at Atlanta Medical Center using their phone is not going to be utilizing towers up by 400. You can see how many towers there are in the downtown Atlanta area for AT&T.
Thank you. And State's Exhibit number 90. Can you see that, please? State's Exhibit number 90. What is it we're looking at, Agent Fitzgerald?
Now this is just showing the calls that utilize the actual sector that covers the Atlanta Medical Center. So this sector off of this tower provides service, which would provide service directly to Atlanta Medical Center. The first time that is used is at 10:51, and then it continues through 1:15.
Is there any time between 10:51 a.m. and 1:13 p.m. that the defendant's cell phone is being used with any other tower other than what's identified on State's Exhibit number 90?
No, it's just that tower and sector. I believe there's a couple of technology, like sometimes it's on 2G and sometimes it's on 3G, but it's that tower and sector pointing in that direction that that services the Atlanta Medical Center.
Okay.
What's the difference between 2G and 3G that you just stated?
It's just different. I mean, you can think of it different languages. I mean, now there's 4G, so it's just usually speed and just a different way, different technology.
Is that something that's accessed when a phone uses the internet?
It can
Possibly.
be, but
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Agent Fitzgerald, I'm showing you what has been previously shown to defense counsel and marked as State's Exhibit number 82. Do you recognize State's Exhibit, 92. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 92?
yes, I've been shown this this morning.
And what is State's Exhibit number 92?
It's a timeline that was put together with a combination of a few things, mostly revolving around a timeline for the Andrea Sneiderman phone.
And were you able to review that document?
I was, yes.
And were you able to compare it to the phone records as you reviewed them?
Yes, I did.
All right. And would the use of State's Exhibit number 92 assist you in your presentation to the jury in explaining some of the cell phone records and the relevant calls from November 18th, 2010?
Yes.
Your Honor, State would seek to admit State's Exhibit number 92.
Any objection?
Your Honor, does the state intend to introduce it as an exhibit for the record or as a demonstrative aid?
It is for demonstrative purposes, Your Honor.
No objection.
All right, 92 will be used as a demonstrative aid. You may publish it to the jury if you wish.
Thank you. May I see Exhibit
You're
number
quite
92, please? All right, let's take the first part, Agent Fitzgerald. When I say the first part, can we see the detail on the first 1/3 of the document? All right. What is it that we're looking at, or what is State's Exhibit number 92 a compilation of?
It's just showing a chronological listing of the calls and the facts in the case. So you start at the top. It's showing that Rusty Sneiderman is shot and that a call was received from Dunwoody Prep to the Andrea Sneiderman phone at 9:25.
What time was that call from Dunwoody Prep to Andrea Sneiderman's phone?
9:25 a.m.
Okay, may I approach you on?
You may.
And it's a little difficult to see, but can you show on exhibit there, where's that call from the Dunwoody daycare, or Dunwoody Prep daycare to Andrea Sneiderman's phone depicted on that exhibit? Right there?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me, please, about the series of calls that we see depicted in red.
Then there's a series of calls to the Hemy Neuman cell phone.
From whom?
From Andrea Sneiderman's phone. And it's 9:27, 9:30, 9:31, and 9:35.
The call from the daycare comes in at 9:25, and then what times are the calls to Hemy Newman's cell phone?
9:27, 9:30, and then 9:31 and 9:35.
What can you tell me, if anything, about whether those calls connected? Meaning, did the two actually speak in any of those calls? Can you tell from the records?
It's hard to tell for sure. They're all very short in duration, as I remember. So I would most likely bet that they didn't physically connect, but I don't know for sure because they're so short in duration.
Okay.
You say so short. Is time on those?
There's not a time.
Did you review the time, Agent Fitzgerald?
Yes, I mean they're in the records. They're just not included on the map.
And does 3 to 4 seconds sound like the longest in duration any of those calls would be?
Right. As I remember, they were all less than 5 seconds, and some of them were 0 seconds and sent to voicemail.
What could account for such a short duration of time in a phone call? 3 seconds, 4 seconds?
The person hangs up. I mean, they dial and.
What about if a call doesn't go through? Or what about if someone does not answer the phone?
Right. So, I mean, I've experienced where I've called somebody, and like say, for example, if I'm trying to call my daughter and her phone's off or the battery's dead, I call it, it goes straight to voicemail. You know, I'll try again to make sure, see if I can get through, but I know it's not uncommon for me.
What
Be
would
very
you?
short.
What would you expect the phone records to show if you called your daughter, it went to voicemail, you didn't leave a message, and you hung up? What sort of duration would you expect to see on the phone records?
I mean, they'd be very short. If I hung up right when the voicemail popped up, you're talking very few seconds. If I wait for the whole message and then leave a message, it's going to be a little longer. So.
Okay. Please tell me, Agent Fitzgerald, about the next call that we see depicted on State's Exhibit number 92 in blue.
So then, just going back to the call that I showed kind of on the one tower along I-285, there's at 9:36, there's a call from the Andrea Sneiderman cell phone to Don Sneiderman.
And you showed this on the previous exhibit, but to your recollection, at 9:36, when the call from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone was made to Don Sneiderman's home phone, was the defendant in the vicinity of the Dunwoody daycare?
No.
Dunwoody Prep daycare, excuse me?
In the general area, like I testified to, along 285.
And at 9:36, do the cell phone records indicate that Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone was in use near the Atlanta Medical Center?
At 9:36?
At 9:36.
No.
Can we scroll down, please, on the exhibit? I'm stopped. Thank you. Chronologically, what is the next time that there is a call or a contact between the cell phone of Andrea Sneiderman and the cell phone of Hemy Neuman?
At 10:06 a.m.
10:06 a.m. Who initiated that call?
It's from Andrea Sneiderman to the Hemy Neuman cell phone, or Andrea Sneiderman's phone, I'm sorry.
And I think I asked you, but let me make sure, the 4 previous calls that we talked about, were those also from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to Hemy Newman's cell phone?
Yes, they were.
Tell me what the next contact after the 10:06 call. Well, let me stop you there. The 10:06 call from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to Hemy Newman's cell phone. Do you know the general location of Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone when she made that call?
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Can we go back, please, to State's Exhibit?
I don't think it was depicted.
Thank you. Can we see, please? State's Exhibit number 88. State's Exhibit number 88, I believe you testified earlier, Agent Fitzgerald, that was the route that Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone took on its way to the Atlanta Medical Center. Do you recall that testimony?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. At the time that State's Exhibit number 88, the information begins, what's the first call on that diagram?
It's not until the 10:20. You have to move the map over just a little bit. It's going to be 10:35 is when that map starts.
10:35?
Yes. Not until this text message on your timeline.
So we haven't yet gotten to the part of the cell phone records where the information indicates that Ms. Sneiderman's cell phone is traveling to the Atlanta Medical Center?
That's correct.
At this time, the 10:06 call is made from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to Hemy Newman's cell phone.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Can I go back to State's Exhibit number 92, please? After the 10:06 call from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to Hemy Newman's cell phone, what is the next contact between Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone and Hemy Newman's cell phone?
10:27
And what kind of contact was that?
is also a voice call.
Any duration of substance to that call that you recall?
I don't believe it. I'm going off memory, but I don't think it had any duration really of any significance.
Okay. Were you provided with, or did you review the work phone number for Mr. Newman's office at GE?
I was provided the number for that location, for his desk.
And did you review any phone records that indicated a contact between Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone and Mr. Newman's work phone?
Yeah, so I show on the records that at 10:33, the Andrea Sneiderman cell phone dials the work number of Hemy Neuman that I was provided.
Do you recall any significant duration of that call?
I don't remember.
Agent Fitzgerald, does the State's Exhibit, let me ask you, do the phone records that you reviewed, do they indicate the presence, either being sent or received, a text message in addition to the phone calls that we've been talking about?
Yes.
Do the cell phone provider records, do they indicate the content of any text message that is sent or received?
No, AT&T doesn't keep any text message content, so even if we wanted to get it, we couldn't get it.
And AT&T was the cell phone provider for Andrea Sneiderman during the relevant time period?
Correct.
Those were the records you reviewed?
Correct.
Okay. What, if any, information does the cell phone provider keep about text messages either being sent or being received?
Just the fact of that there was a text message sent or received and who it was from. So just like a phone call, they don't keep the contents of a phone call. They don't record the phone call. It just shows, somebody's number contacting, the number you're looking at, or vice versa.
Did the cell phone records you reviewed for the defendant's phone indicate that she sent a text message to Hemy Newman on the morning of November 18, 2010?
Yes, there was a text message starting at 10:34 a.m. from the Andrea Sneiderman cell phone to the Hemy Newman cell phone.
And again, was there any content recoverable from that text?
Not from AT&T,
Not
no.
from AT&T,
Right.
workers who reviewed. Okay. Tell me that, may I approach you?
You may.
Thank you. Tell me that, Agent Fitzgerald, what is the next significant contact as depicted on State's Exhibit number 92 that's there in blue?
So at 10:35, there was a message, a text message from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to the number that I was told belongs to Alan Schlackley. And I was told that the content is my husband was shot from
Okay,
the
that was
prosecutor's
another
office.
witness. I'm
Right.
asking you, what time the text message from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to Alan Schlackley's cell phone went out on the morning of November 18th, 2010?
It's 10:35 a.m.
Do you have an explanation, or what could be an explanation, Agent Fitzgerald, for a time differential between, let's say, if I send a text message to you, if my phone reflects that the text message was sent at 11 a.m. and your phone indicates that the message was received at 11:01, is there an explanation for that?
Yeah, there could be a couple. First, being that if we're on different networks, I mean, with GPS and a universal clock, the times are usually very close, but it is still two different networks that have their own time set. In addition to that, I could send the message to you, and my AT&T records are going to reflect when I sent the message to you. That doesn't necessarily mean that's when if you're just looking at your phone, if your phone was off at the time that I sent it, or you were talking on the phone, and then when you hang up, the message is delivered to your phone, that's when you're going to get your timestamp on your phone.
Okay. In your experience, is the difference of a minute or two on either side unusual in your review of cell phone records from the recipient to the sender?
No, I don't find that unusual.
I'm sorry, then you were talking about, I want to direct your attention to the 1042 call as depicted on State's Exhibit number 92. Can you describe for the jurors what it is that you were able to determine from the phone records about any call made from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to Shayna Citron's cell phone?
Yes, that was at 10:42. There was a call from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to the Citron cell phone. And I had testified to earlier that it was utilizing towers right in the neighborhood of 485.
Can I see State's Exhibit number 89, please? And State's Exhibit number 89, could you mark or identify in some way, Agent Fitzgerald, where it was that the defendant's phone was in use when she made that 1052 call to Shayna Citron?
Yes, so it's going to be utilizing this tower right here along 85, right just south of where 400 connects to 85. So it's a 1 minute 15-second call to Citron.
At the time that that call was made, is it your testimony, or what is your testimony about the location of Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone in relation to the Atlanta Medical Center?
North.
Is it close enough that she could have been at the Atlanta Medical Center at the time that phone call was placed from her phone?
Absolutely not.
Can we go back then to State's Exhibit number 92? Can I see just State's Exhibit number 92, please? Looking at State's Exhibit number 92, what, if any, contact was there between the defendant's, Andrea Sneiderman's phone and any phone connected with Hemy Neuman after that 1052 call from the defendant to Shayna Citron?
Yeah, so that was at 10:42, and then there's with the Hemy Neuman cell phone, there's a call from the Hemy Neuman cell phone to the Andrea Sneiderman cell phone a minute later at 10:43.
All right, let me pause you there for one moment. Agent Fitzgerald, having technical difficulties.
That's not why he's doing that, ladies and gentlemen, stand in the jury like that. You stand in the gallery.
think they've been resolved, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may.
All right, Fitzgerald's almost there. After the 10:52 call from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to Shayna Citron's cell phone, you were about to describe for the jury what was the contact between Andrea Sneiderman's phone and Hemy Neuman's phones immediately after that call.
So yeah, 10:43, there's a call from the Hemy Neuman cell phone to Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone. Then at 10:45, there's a call from the Andrea Sneiderman cell phone to Hemy Neuman's work number. And then at 10:46, there's another call from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to the Hemy Neuman cell phone.
And all three of those calls, as you've described them, are those prior to the time that the defendant's phone is being utilized at the cell phone tower closest to the Atlanta Medical Center?
Yeah, so the first time the phone is in the area of Atlanta Medical Center is at during a 10:46 call.
That's the call right there?
Correct.
Thank you. Can you pull back on State's Exhibit number 92, please, to see the entirety of it? Thank you. I want to direct your attention now, Agent Fitzgerald, to the final portion of State's Exhibit number 92. Can you describe for the jurors, please, the series of contacts between Andrea Sneiderman and Hemy Neuman as depicted on State's 92?
Yeah, so there's a text message from the Hemy Neuman cell phone to Andrea Sneiderman at 12:06. Then there's another text message at 12:47 from Hemy Neuman's cell phone to Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone.
Let me stop you. Is there anything different in these text messages from the text message we talked about earlier? Were you able to get any of the content of these text messages?
No, not from AT&T.
Okay, I'm sorry, continue.
And then at 2:11 p.m., there's a call from Hemy Neuman's cell phone to the Andrea Sneiderman cell phone. And then there's a series of texts from Hemy Neuman's cell phone to Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone at 2:21, just two of them. And then I think the last one on the list is at 3:44. There's a call from Hemy Neuman's work number to Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone.
Agent Fitzgerald, can I see State's Exhibit number 91, please? Agent Fitzgerald, were you able to determine the number of contacts between Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone and Hemy Neuman's cell phone for a particular period of time?
Yes.
Okay, and what was that period of time?
I went from May 1st, 2010 to November 8th, the morning of November 18th, 2010.
And how many phone contacts? Well, describe for the jurors what you include in that number of contacts.
I included every contact that AT&T provided me. So if there was a text message or a phone call that went to voicemail, I included all just the contacts for both numbers.
That's Andrea Sneiderman to Hemy Neuman.
Yeah, so it's contacts between Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone and Hemy Neuman's cell phone as compared to Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone to or from Rusty Sneiderman's cell phone.
Okay. And just to be clear, you included in the, I'm speaking first about the number of contacts between Andrea Sneiderman and Hemy Neuman. Did you include contacts when Hemy Neuman initiated contact?
Right, so any call, basically.
And any contact where Ms. Sneiderman
Any
initiated?
direction.
Okay. And how many contacts were there between Hemy Neuman and Andrea Sneiderman from the time period of May 1st, 2010 through November 18th, 2010?
It's going to be between Hemy and Andrea was 1,426, and between the Andrea Sneiderman phone and Rusty Sneiderman phone was 882.
You did the same comparison for the other two cell phones, Andrea Sneiderman and Rusty Sneiderman's cell phone?
Correct.
Okay, and that's how you arrived at that number?
Correct. Yeah.
Got it. There's one other thing I want to ask you about, Agent Fitzgerald. We went in some detail about the contact between Hemy Newman's cell phone and Andrea Sneiderman's phone on November 18th, 2010. Were you able, can you take down the number? No, thank you. Were you able to determine, was there any contact between Andrea Sneiderman and Hemy Newman on November 19th, 2010?
Yes.
Tell me about that contact, please.
I actually wrote it down here. It's
Thank
going to be, there's 2 calls from the Andrea Sneiderman cell phone to the Hemy Newman cell phone. They're back-to-back. One's at 11:48 p.m. and the other one's at 11:52 p.m.
What's the duration of those calls?
The first one's a little over 3 minutes, and the second one's like 3 minutes, 49 seconds.
After those 2 late-night calls on the 19th, was there any contact between Hemy Newman and Andrea Sneiderman on November 20th?
I don't think I looked that date up.
Did I ask you to review the contact between the 2 of them through the month of, or any further than that?
No.
I asked you, Agent Fitzgerald, let me show Mr. Petrie. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I asked you some information about the 10:06 call from Andrea Sneiderman to Hemy Newman. I asked you specifically about some location information. I'm handing you what I will mark as State's Exhibit 93, and ask if State's Exhibit number 93 refreshes your recollection about the location of Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone. And for purposes of the record, this is based on page 802.
802, all right.
And so at 10:06, there's a call from the Andrea Sneiderman phone to the Hemy Newman cell phone, and it's going to be utilizing tower 40267. And
Is tower, can I see, is State's Exhibit number 92? No. State's Exhibit number 92, please. And can I see on State's Exhibit number 92 the 10:06 call we're referring to? Thank you. The 10:06 call, may I push witness?
You may.
If you are able, Agent Fitzgerald, using what's been identified as State's Exhibit 93 to refresh your recollection, are you able to identify the location of the cell tower, just the general information about where that call or where the defendant's cell phone was when that call was placed?
it's got the latitude and longitude. I don't see that particular tower.
Is it somewhat north of the exhibit?
I'd have to look up the latitude and longitude. I was trying to look through some other
That's fine. No,
exhibits just to see if I have it.
I say, can I see State's Exhibit number 88, please? May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. You let us know that the first time-stamped call or contact with the defendant's phone as exhibited on State's Exhibit number 88 was 10:35 a.m. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And the 10:06 call, was that made after the defendant was at the Atlanta Medical Center or before?
Oh, well before, yes.
Well before.
40 minutes, yes.
40 minutes? I'm sorry, Your Honor, I have one moment?
You may.
Thank you.
You may continue.
Thank you, Agent Fitzgerald. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Petrie, is this going to be your witness?
Yes, sir.
You may examine if you wish.
Mr. Fitzgerald, the chart or diagram that was displayed as, I believe, State's Exhibit number 92, the demonstrative, yes, sir, that one right there. Other than the calls that you yourself obtained from the AT&T records, you have no information about the content of text, for instance, or what was told to somebody or anybody during those conversations, correct? Insofar as your own knowledge is concerned.
Right, and I didn't get the records from AT&T. The police department, I was provided the records from the district attorney's office, so I never got any of the records, but I know the content of text messages cannot be obtained from AT&T.
Okay, and the cell phone location and call history has been stipulated to, so I'm not suggesting you got it in any kind of underhanded way, but you took those records regardless of how you got them, and that's your direct information came from an analysis of those records provided ultimately by AT&T to somebody, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the let me go back just a little bit if I can.
You can.
On all of the maps that you provided for Greenville, which I believe was State's Exhibit 83, State's 85, State's 86. That may be all of those. Is there anything that you can tell? Let me, might be, now approach
You may. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, the fair for him to actually get able to look at these from.
Yeah, Kelly should have those exhibits in front of her or nearby.
I think they're right here.
All right.
I might just use the corner of Mr. Fitzgerald's desk
You
here.
may.
I'm going to show you again, sir, what is it marked as State's Exhibits 83, 85, and 86. I'm just asking you to look at those briefly and see if you would agree that those are the records that indicate certain calls and locations on October the 21st and 22nd.
Well, 83 is August 26th and 27th, and then 86, and I guess that's 85 are October 21st and 22nd, yes.
Okay. I may have written the wrong day. On the October the 21st and 22nd, sir, if there were evidence that the defendant, Andrea Sneiderman and Hemy Neuman, left from Atlanta to go to Greenville together in the same vehicle to go to the same location in Greenville, is there anything in those records that would dispute that in any way? That they left Atlanta together, went the same vehicle to Greenville, were in the same hotel in Greenville, went to the same meetings, and drove back together. Is there anything in those exhibits that would contradict that?
Well, the time, I can only go off of when the phone was utilizing resources on a tower. So when it's making, receiving a call, as well as texting to or from. So if I start on the 21st, the Andrea Sneiderman phone shows up in the Greenville, South Carolina at 5:25. The first time I have the Hemy Neuman phone utilizing resources up there is not until 11:27. So it doesn't necessarily dispute that they're not in the same car from what I have here, but there's obviously a time difference, so they could just as easily have been two different cars.
I'm not asking you whether or not it confirms that they were. I'm simply asking, does it deny? It doesn't show one of them in Timbuktu and one of them in Siberia.
Right, they're in the same general area.
Okay. And the S-84, if I might approach again.
You may.
That is, I believe, the indication of the records from the United Kingdom, correct?
That's correct.
And if I understood you correctly, shows that the phones were out of your area for gathering information during that period of time.
Right, so AT&T doesn't get the tower information passed back to them. They just get the fact that both phones were in a roaming status and what network they were roaming.
Whether they were together, whether they were separate, whether they were there on the same date, we simply don't have that information. Is that correct, sir?
Right, the time range is consistent with both of them being out of the metro Atlanta area the same time period. However, they were on same plane, different planes, different areas in the United Kingdom. I don't know.
Okay. Now let me show you, if I might approach
You may know.
States Exhibits 81 and 82. There's 82. Okay. And 81 and 82, if you look at those, sir, do those show that at very close to the same time in S81, Mrs. Sneiderman's phone and Mr. Neuman's phone were both utilized at the Denver airport?
Right, they were utilizing the towers at the Denver airport.
Okay. And States 82 shows that on July the 24th, at up close times to each other, both of them were at the Atlanta airport.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if I might approach again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Work through this. Okay. Let me, if I can, sir, go to states 79 and 80. I'm going to ask you to first look at States Exhibit number 79, sir. Then I've got a few questions for that. Bear with me just a second. That is a map of the Longmont, Colorado general area. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, so it's a map just showing the tower that was utilized first thing in the morning on the 22nd of July.
Okay. And on that July the 2nd, I believe you indicated that Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone at 7:02 was using a particular tower and sector. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And some 30 minutes earlier, 25 to 30 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes earlier, Mr. Neuman's cell phone was using the same tower and sector. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now, you indicated that they were in, I believe your phrase was the same general area, correct?
Same general geographic area, I think were my
Same
words.
general geographic area. Okay. Did I understand you correctly to say that that means they were somewhere within a mile to a mile and a half of each other?
I said they had to be in the footprint of that tower to utilize resources on that tower. Just looking at the map and the relative neighboring towers, I was in general saying that was within about a mile and a half of that tower.
Okay. So whether or not these two telephones were at the same location at any given time, the records that you have been provided with do not allow you to say that. Is that correct?
Right, just in those generalities, I can say they're in the same general area. I can't say that they're in the exact same spot.
Within 35 to 40 minutes, they're within a mile and a half of each other.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now, that is not the first usage of Mr. Neuman's phone on that date of July the 22nd, is it, that you had records of?
Right, I think I testified, and I was going off memory. I believe that at some point it departed that area, or it was I should say it was utilizing a tower just in the immediate area of that particular sector.
Do you remember that the records provided to you indicated that there were, I believe, 2 calls at approximately the same time, 12:20 a.m. on July the 22nd, involving Mr. Neuman's phone? Does that ring any kind of bell for you?
It could have been. I don't remember off the top of my head.
May I have a
You
moment,
may.
please, Your Honor? I might approach again, Your Honor.
Oh, you may.
And I'm going to ask you, sir, to look at page 44 of these records, which have been stipulated to their State's Exhibit number 70. They purport to be the mobility usage cell location records for Mr. Hemy Neuman.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you to look with me on this page, sir, and see for July the 22nd. Whoops, did I just turn too many pages? Does that show any activity at or about 12:20 a.m. for Mr. Newman's phone?
Yes, it shows that there is an incoming call, but there's no tower information recorded.
What does that mean, the absence of a tower information recorded?
The phone doesn't have service, so does that mean the battery's out, it's turned off, that it's in the basement, stuck in the microwave? I mean, it just doesn't have service. It's not, the network cannot find the phone.
So from those records, you cannot tell us where that telephone was at the time that call was attempted to be made at 12:20. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now,
Is that an incoming call to that phone or an outgoing call?
Incoming,
Incoming, okay.
yes.
in those same records, sir, I'm going to ask you to, and I believe all of these, may I approach you?
Right.
Page 952.
Well, he's doing that investigate, special agent. So if your phone is off, I just want to make sure I understand. If your phone is in the off position and someone is calling you, the records will indicate that a call is coming in.
Correct.
But since the phone is off, it's not sending a signal to a cell tower, it won't give you any information. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. So the network will basically page or yell out for the cell phone. If the cell phone doesn't respond, it still generates a record showing that the call came in to the network, the switch, but there's no tower information, so it couldn't find the mobile and either dumps it to voicemail or the person hangs up.
So the time is coming in is when the person's, for lack of a better term, on the calling side is calling that person.
That's correct, yes.
And there's no indication when the call is received.
Well, if the phone's off, it's
Oh,
just not going to be received.
But that's what I mean, it's not being received.
Right, correct.
But if it goes to voicemail, does it give you a time when it goes to voicemail?
Yeah, they're all stacked right there on top of it. Yeah. So like that particular call went to
sorry,
voicemail.
just filling time.
That's fine. Let me direct your attention, please, Mr. Fitzgerald, to this page, bait stamp number 952 in the cell phone records for Mr. Neuman. I'm going to ask you to direct your attention to items 4249 through 4254, and there'll be those numbers over there.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to show those, sir?
Yes, so this is the data usage. So when the phone is utilizing data with AT&T, so checking emails, surfing the internet, an email comes in, a Twitter, whatever, Instagram, any kind of connection data-wise comes in. It has been our experience in CAST, and we've been working with AT&T on this for about 6 months, maybe a year, that all of the AT&T data connections, there is an issue, and we believe it's a timestamp issue, so we don't even utilize the data connections. That's why I haven't testified to any data connections, because there is an inaccuracy on associating the time and the tower being used, because we've been able to show that the voice calls, say a data connection happens in between two voice calls, we've been able to show that there's several anomalies, and we think it's a timestamp issue, but AT&T doesn't know the answer at this point.
And neither do you.
No, I do not.
Okay.
So we just don't use them.
Okay, well, I'm going to use them, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about them, sir. Can you look at those records and tell us if there is some kind of data usage or timestamp or something at 12:38 a.m., 1:38, 2:38, 3:38, and 4:38?
Yes, there's all those times there, and there is a tower recorded, but like I said, we have found them to be inaccurate.
Okay. Is there also data usage at 6:28?
Yes.
And does that show that that is the same tower as the tower that was used for the 5 previous data entries?
At 6:20 it is,
Do you need a paper?
it's listing tower 16113, and I would like to say if you go later in these records, you will, using the data connections, you will show that it's showing a phone being used in Colorado and Atlanta at the same time. So like I said, it's totally inaccurate.
Let me thank you very much for that and ask you to answer my question now.
Okay.
Does it show a cell tower location for 628 data usage?
Yes, that's the tower 16113.
Is that a different or the same tower from that shows up for 1238, 138, 238, 338, and 438? Is it the same tower or a different tower?
It's the tower before that is 30468 on those data connections you referred to.
All of the 5 earlier that I've mentioned show the same tower. Accurate or inaccurate, they show the same tower, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you to go back, if you will, sir, to page, let's see. May I approach again?
You may.
Put my pen in. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Mr. Pitcher, you need a marker?
I don't want to mark it up, Judge. I just want to save my place there for just a
No
second.
problem. You want a flag? I have flags.
Yes, sir, that would be wonderful.
Think of the green. Kelly, would you assist?
I'm going to choose blue, with the court's permission.
Oh, no. Use it as you wish. I can get more colors if you need.
That's all. Thank you, sir. And
You can pass
that
red.
banter has made me forget my other page number, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
You got me red.
Now, can you tell me, please, Mr. Fitzgerald, the call that we just mentioned, the 625 call as opposed to data usage?
Mm-hmm.
What is the tower information for that call as reflected in those records, please, sir?
At 625 is, the initial tower is 11119.
Okay. And what is the tower that shows up on the tape with the blue sticky on the 628 data usage?
628 is 16113.
Okay. And do any other towers show up on the call at 625?
Yes. There's
What are
several.
those towers, sir?
Let's see, you've got 12431, and you have 13772, and then back to 12431, 12432, and the terminating tower is 12432. So, in all those calls, it's a 62-minute call, so there are several different towers that are being used, but a few of them are at the same location.
Does that indicate to you, although it's not necessarily required, that the cell phone was moving during the time of that call?
I apologize. I was reading the 758 call. Can I repeat the 625?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So it's a 3-minute call,
Okay, 625.
yes, and it was tower 1119 is the initial, then 13852, then 12431, and then 16113 is the terminating tower.
Okay. Same general question. Does that indicate that the phone was in some kind of movement at that time or possibility?
Yeah, so it could be in moving, or it could be kind of on the overlap area, kind of the mutual boundaries of those, and just handing off from one tower to the next as the signal gets stronger, depending on where the person is, inside, outside. But yes, I mean, it's definitely switching from tower to tower, or sector to sector, handing off.
Now, Andrea Sneiderman's records, if I might
You may.
Yeah, give me that. I'm going to ask you to look with me at the contents of State's Exhibit 68, which has previously been stipulated to as the cell phone records of Mrs. Sneiderman. And bear with me just a second. There is I'm going to ask you to look with me at item 1074 on this picture. Is that close enough for you? Your eyes are younger than mine.
They're still bad.
Do you find item number 1074 on page 39, sir?
Yes?
Which for bait stamp purposes is number 000091, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, does that show that that was an incoming or an outgoing phone call, sir?
Outgoing?
And does that show what tower or towers was used during the duration of that phone call?
It does.
Was it one tower or more than one tower?
Two sectors are listed.
Two sectors from the same tower?
No, they are not. There's it starts on 1119 and then gets handed off to 13858 and then terminates on 1119.
Okay. What does that tell you about the location of that telephone during the duration of that call, sir? Does it tell you anything about whether the phone was stationary, was it moving? What are the possibilities to you, the expert?
It could be one of the above that you mentioned. It's definitely, it starts on one tower and sector and terminates on the same tower and sector, and in between on that 8-minute call, it hands off to another tower and sector. So the mobile is reporting that that the signal is stronger and clearer, or the network wanted to shift it over there. Whether it's moving, it's on a mutual boundary, or for whatever reason the network wanted to push it off to that sector. I don't know the exact reason.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. If I'm in a big building, convention hall, hotel, and I'm yakking on my cell phone and I'm walking from the meeting room out to the hallway to the vestibule, is it possible to bounce off different towers at that time depending on what other structures, if any, are around me?
No, absolutely, yes.
So if I am back at this end of the courtroom and walk out to a window on the other side of this building, could I be bouncing off different towers?
You could, or you might not. It just depends.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, we have equipment to measure that, but yes, I don't know exactly in this courtroom, but it's definitely a possibility.
And well, let me ask you this. The bottom line then, in the long run, other than at times, sometimes 40 minutes apart or an hour apart, that you have Mr. Neuman and Mrs. Sneiderman within a mile to a mile and a half of each other, can you give us anything, in your opinion, more definite than that? Can you ever put them in the same room together?
No, I can't put them in the same room.
Put them in the
I
same
can't
building?
tell them the road that they drove down. I can't tell you any of that.
Okay. Have you ever been to Longmont?
I used to live in Colorado, Denver, yes.
Okay, so you know Longmont's about, what, 45 minutes or an hour from there?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. Do you know roughly how many hotels, well, let me, that may be unfair. What time, how many years ago did you leave?
16.
Okay, then I won't ask. You're not that familiar with what was going on in 2010?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
on the 18th of November then. I approach you.
Oh, yes, sir, yes, sir, amen.
Oops. Let me get this out of the way, Your Honor.
You may.
And
You pass it,
find the
yeah.
one I'm looking, oh, here it is. State's Exhibit number 87. That was, I believe, the exhibit that you testified to about the phone call that Mrs. Sneiderman made to area code 216. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, yes.
And you indicated that you could tell by the records furnished to you by AT&T Mobility that it was in the west-southwest sector of that tower. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And if you would, let me just make sure that we're all on the same page. The towers essentially send out and receive signals in a triangular fashion. They divide the big circle up into 3 big pieces of pie, I think you described it.
That's correct, yes.
And so does one start always at due north and then go around, or can the towers be pretty much any way the people put them up?
Yeah, the engineers design them a certain way to optimize their network.
Okay. So the fact that a tower is AT&T doesn't mean that the towers, the two sectors are going to come together right at due north. They could come together any way the engineer does them.
Right, so they tailor it to their subscribers in the area.
But your records, that allow you to know what general direction that, I'm going to call it the left-hand segment of that tower focused on. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the call detail records, that, you know, this big stack of papers, it has the azimuth or the sector, the direction of that sector included in most of the calls, and if it's not, we can then go to a tower list or a more definitive tower list, or call AT&T and get the azimuth, you know, through the engineers or whatever.
Okay. And make sure I understand, azimuth is essentially compass point type.
Yeah, the
correct?
orientation, the direction that the energy is focused.
And that, it goes from 0 to almost 360, is that right?
360, you'd be back at 0.
Okay, so 360 and 0 are the same, but other than that, it's going to have a true numerical value.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell from the records that you reviewed what direction that vehicle was moving at, if in fact it was moving at that time?
I'm going off memory here, but I remember the initial tower as depicted to the southwest. I believe, if I remember correctly, the terminating sector was another sector on this same tower, indicating to me that the mobile was right on that mutual boundary or traveling from west to east.
Okay. Would that be consistent for someone driving from Marietta, getting on 285 and going to the Dunwoody area? Wait, let me interrupt that. How long have you lived in Atlanta?
16 years.
Okay, then you know what 285 is.
Yes.
Okay, so somebody coming down 75, getting on 285 to go towards Dunwoody, would that be consistent with the path of direction you just testified about?
Yes, it'd be
That
east.
if you recall correctly.
It'd be easterly, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, if you will bear with me just one moment. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Oh, I'm going to ask, do the sectors ever change?
Yes, all the time.
Okay. I know it's 0 to 360 is all the way around. But I'm saying no one comes out to a tower and changes the direction of the sectors.
Oh, yes, they do. It's all electronic.
Oh, it's all electronic.
For the most part. I mean, you point it in a certain direction, then you can kind of tune it.
Okay. Now, you testified, Mr. Fitzgerald, about one of the last areas that Mrs. Cross talked to you about was the call volume or contact volume between Hemy Neuman on the one hand with Mrs. Sneiderman and Andrea Sneiderman on the other hand with her husband, Rusty Sneiderman, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And how do you do that?
I did two different ways. We have a software program that will give us a count if you put in the certain numbers, and it will, so you can load all of this, two stacks that we just looked at that you brought up earlier, the call detail records. We could load that into the software and then ask for how many contacts between a certain date and time and a certain, ending date and time, and it'll give us the number of contacts, as well as I loaded it into Excel and did like pivot tables.
So you didn't just hand count?
No.
But you could do that with those records that you got, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And assuming you didn't fall asleep, it would be correct, right?
I'm sure mine would not be correct if I did it by hand.
But somebody with a low threshold or a high threshold of boredom could do that.
Absolutely.
There's no reason we couldn't if we just had the stamina.
Correct.
Now, of the phone calls or text messages between Andrea Sneiderman and Hemy Neuman, how many were from Hemy Neuman to Andrea Sneiderman?
I didn't mark that down.
Did you even count it?
I could have. I mean, it's just a matter of programming the software to count that. But I wasn't asked to count that. So I only did what, discussing with the investigator and the prosecutor at the prosecutor's office, they were interested just in the total number of contacts. So that's what I used.
You could have done it, but you weren't asked to.
That's correct, yes.
And you wouldn't have counted them again. You would have put them in Excel or put them in a program.
Correct, yes.
Now, can you tell us how many text messages there were between Mrs. Sneiderman and Hemy Neuman versus telephone calls?
I didn't. You see what I counted. I mean, all that is possible. The only thing I did is I got the total count. So whatever iteration I didn't do, I just did a total.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. You gave us a figure, 800 and something, I want to say 842, but I may be wrong, on contacts between Andrea Sneiderman and her husband, Rusty Sneiderman, correct?
That's correct.
I'm
882.
882, okay. I'm cheating myself. Were you aware, no, take that back. Did anybody ever ask you to factor into that Rusty Sneiderman and Andrea Sneiderman's home phone contacts with her cell phone?
I don't remember that being asked, no.
Were you ever made aware that Rusty Sneiderman, during the period of time that you were asked to count, was working from home?
No.
Can you tell us whether or not on the morning of November the 18th, 2010, at any time Hemy Neuman's cell phone was in the same general geographic area as Andrea Sneiderman's?
Can you say, I'm sorry,
Right.
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
On November the 18th.
Yes.
You've got the records from Hemy Neuman's cell phone and you've got the records from Andrea Sneiderman's cell phone. Can you place the two of them at approximately the same time, ever at the same general geographic location?
I don't remember that being the case, other than it might have been possible around GE, but I don't remember for sure.
Okay, you don't recall?
No.
Did you, in fact, investigate what the locations were for Hemy Neuman's cell phone on the morning of November the 18th?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember, was there a particular area that it seemed to be pinging off of, the same general geographic area?
In the morning?
Yes.
Yes, is just to the north and west of GE,
Okay.
mostly.
What would that have been in a location that was served by the towers at GE itself or other towers?
No, I think if you're asking me around like the 9 to
Let's
10
say 9 to
o'clock.
11, 9 to 10:30.
Right, so 9 to about 10 or so, I seem to remember it being in an area that is close to GE, but not necessarily what would service GE. Later in the morning, it did if I remember right, went to the area of GE and then left there
Is
later.
it fair to say that that Hemy Neuman cell phone was fairly stationary for a period of time from, let's say, 8:39 till 10 or 10:30?
Yeah, that seems to be what I remember, consistent with what I remember.
And then after that time, 10, 10:30, 11, it moves and it's in the GE area at that time.
That's correct. That's what I remember.
And again, that tells you where Mr. Newman's cell phone was, doesn't tell you where he was.
Absolutely.
One moment, please, Your Honor.
All right. Well, the ladies and gentlemen have indicated they want to break Deputy Garrett, and we've gone about an hour and 40 minutes now. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and give you it'll be a 10-minute break, all right? All rise.
You are watching the trial of Andrea